Nari sat alone in the dark room. The only light came from her screens. It was 3 in the morning on the lunar relay station, and everyone else was asleep. She liked the night shift. It was quiet, peaceful. Nothing ever happened. She was wrong. A small beep came from her console. At first, she thought it was just noise from a distant star. Space was full of such sounds. But this one repeated. Again and again. The same pattern. Over and over. Nari leaned forward. Her fingers moved across the keyboard. She ran the signal through every filter she had. The pattern stayed the same. It was not random. Someone or something had sent this on purpose. Her heart began to beat faster. She called Dr. Park Soo at 5 in the morning. He was not happy about being woken up, but when he heard her words, he came running. Park Soo was the station's expert on alien life. For 20 years, he had searched the stars for signs of intelligence. He had found nothing, until now. "Play it again," he said, standing behind her chair. The signal filled the room. It sounded like wind and bells and crying all mixed together. Park Soo listened with his eyes closed. When it ended, he was shaking. "This is not natural," he whispered. "This is a message." It took them 3 weeks to break the code. Park Soo worked day and night. He forgot to eat. He forgot to sleep. Other scientists joined him. They argued. They failed. They tried again. And slowly, piece by piece, the message became clear. It came from a species called the Valori. They lived in the Andrus Nebula, far beyond any place humans had ever visited. For thousands of years, the galaxy had thought they were just a legend, a story, a myth. But they were real, and they were dying. The message told their story. An empire called the Krath Dominion had found them. The Krath were hunters. They moved from world to world, taking what they wanted. Weaker species became their slaves. Those who fought back were destroyed. The Valori had never known war. They were peaceful, gentle. Their bodies were soft and thin. They felt the emotions of others as if those feelings were their own. When one Valori suffered, all Valori suffered with them. They had no weapons, no armies, no way to fight. So they called for help. In their message, they spoke of an old legend. Stories passed down through generations. Tales of a world covered in poison air and crushing weight. A world of fire and ice and storms that could tear metal apart. A world where every creature fought to survive from the moment of birth. They called this world a death world. They called its people Deathworlders. They called them humans. The Valori did not know if humans were real, but they had no other hope. So they sent their signal into the darkness and prayed. When the translation was complete, Park Soo presented it to the United Earth Council. The great leaders of humanity sat in their tall chairs and listened. The room was silent. On the screen, images played. Valori cities burning, families running, children being taken away. Some council members wiped their eyes. Others looked away. "This is terrible," said one leader. "But it is not our problem. These Valori are strangers. They are far away. We have our own troubles here." Many nodded in agreement. "We should not risk human lives for aliens we have never met," said another. "What if it is a trap? What if they are enemies pretending to be victims?" The debate went on for hours. Fear fought against compassion. Safety fought against duty. It seemed like the council would vote to do nothing. Then Admiral Kang Tae stood up. He was an old man now. His hair was white. His face was lined with scars from battles long past. He had led the United Earth Fleet for 15 years. Every person in the room respected him. When he spoke, they listened. "My grandfather lived in Jakarta," he said quietly. "When I was a boy, he told me about the collapse. The floods came so fast, the city drowned in hours. He was trapped on a rooftop with hundreds of others. They had no food, no water, no way to escape. They waited for 3 days." The room was completely silent. On the 3rd day, ships came. rescue ships from countries far away, people who did not speak his language, people who owed him nothing. They came anyway. They saved him. They saved thousands. Admiral Kang Tae looked at each council member in turn. My grandfather asked one of the rescuers why they came, why they risked their lives for strangers. Do you know what the man said? No one answered. He said, "Because you called for help." The Admiral walked to the center of the room. His voice grew stronger. The Valori called for help. They called into the darkness, hoping someone would hear. They called for the Deathworlders. They called for us. He pointed at the screen, where a Valori child stared at the camera with wide, frightened eyes. And we are going to answer. The vote was held that night. It was not even close. 2 days later, Nari watched from the observation deck as the first armada began to move. 200 warships, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. They turned toward the distant stars, toward a nebula they had never seen, toward a people they had never met. They were going to save strangers, because that is what Deathworlders do. The flagship was called the Endurance. It was the largest ship in the fleet, 3 kilometers long, a city that flew through space, and Captain Yoon Hana was its brain. She stood on the bridge, watching screens filled with data. Around her, officers worked at their stations. Maps showed the positions of every ship in the armada. 200 vessels moved as one, flying faster than light toward a war they did not understand. Yoon Hana understood war very well. She had studied every battle in human history. She knew how armies moved. She knew how soldiers thought. She knew that the difference between victory and death was often just one good decision at the right moment. Now she studied the Krath. There was not much information. The Valori message had included some images, some reports. The Krath were large, strong. They had thick skin and many arms. They had conquered 12 species in the last 100 years. No one had ever stopped them. They have never lost, Hana said to herself. That is their weakness. Admiral Kang Tae entered the bridge. He walked slowly now. The journey was hard on his old body, but his eyes were still sharp. What do you see, Captain? He asked. They attack in waves, she answered. Always the same pattern. First, they send fast ships to test the enemy. Then they surround them. Then they crush them with numbers. It works every time. Because no one fights back. Exactly. Hana turned to face him. They do not know how to handle resistance. They have never met anyone who refused to run. The Admiral smiled. Then we will teach them. Deep in the belly of the Endurance, Lieutenant Baek Jun trained his soldiers. The cargo bay had been turned into a practice field. Men and women in heavy armor fought with weapons that could cut through steel. They were the best warriors humanity had ever produced. They were afraid of nothing, except perhaps the unknown. Why are we doing this? Asked one young soldier. Her name was Minji. She was only 20 years old. These Valori are not human. They are not our family. They are not our friends. Why should we die for them? Baek Jun stopped the training. Everyone looked at him. He was a tall man, quiet. He did not speak often, but when he did, people listened. He had been a soldier for 15 years. He had seen things that would break most people, but his voice was always calm. Have you ever been helpless? He asked Minji. She did not answer. I have, he said. When I was a child, my village flooded. I was trapped in my house. The water was rising. I could not escape. I was sure I was going to die. The cargo bay was silent. A stranger saved me. A man I had never met. He broke through my wall and carried me to safety. He almost drowned doing it. When I asked him why he risked his life, he just laughed. He said helping people was what good people do. Baek Jun looked at each of his soldiers. The Valori are alone in the dark. They are scared. They are dying. And they called for help. They called for us. Not because we are strong, not because we are dangerous, because they believe we are good. He picked up his weapon. I will not prove them wrong. Training continued. No one complained again. In his small cabin, Park Sue studied everything the Valori had sent. He learned about their bodies. They were thin and light. Their bones were hollow like birds. Earth's gravity would crush them. They could feel the emotions of other living things. If you were sad near a Valori, they would feel your sadness as if it were their own. They must suffer so much, Park Sue whispered. Feeling all that pain from everyone around them, he also learned about their world. It had been beautiful, gentle winds, warm light, soft ground, a paradise, the perfect place for peaceful creatures to grow. Now it was gone, burned by the Krath. A message came through the ship's communication system. Admiral Kang Tae's voice filled every room. This is your Admiral. I have just received news from the Andrus Nebula. Park Sue stopped reading. His heart went cold. The Valori homeworld has fallen. The Krath have destroyed it completely. Only refugee fleets remain, scattered groups running for their lives. We do not know how many survived. It may be thousands. It may be less. There was a long pause. We are too late to save their world, but we are not too late to save their people. We will find them. We will protect them. And we will make sure the Krath never hurt them again. The message ended. Park Sue sat in the darkness for a long time. He thought about the Valori children in the images. He thought about their wide, frightened eyes. He thought about what it must feel like to lose everything. Then he went back to work. There was still much to learn, and the refugees would need someone who understood them. The fleet flew on through the endless dark, 200 ships carrying 50,000 humans. They were flying toward death, toward war, toward an enemy they had never faced, but they were also flying toward hope, because somewhere in the darkness, the Valori were waiting, and the Deathworlders were coming to answer their call. The shattered rim was a graveyard. Broken stations floated in the darkness. Pieces of ships drifted among the rocks. Everything was silent. Everything was dead. This had once been home to millions of Valori. Now it was nothing but dust and memory. On the bridge of the Endurance, no one spoke. Officers stared at their screens. Some had tears on their faces. Admiral Kang Tae stood at the window, looking out at the destruction. "Hold position," he said quietly. "Scan for survivors." The fleet stopped. Sensors reached out into the darkness. For long minutes, there was nothing. Then Nari looked up from her station. "Admiral, life signs. 12 ships hidden behind the largest asteroid, approximately 40,000 people." The bridge came alive with hope. "Can you identify them?" asked Captain Yoon Hana. "Valori, they are alive." Admiral Kang Tae closed his eyes. "Open a channel. Let them know we are friends." Nari sent the message. It was simple. Just a few words in the Valori language that Park Sue had taught her. "We received your call. We came." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the hidden ships began to move, but they were not coming toward the fleet. They were running away. "They are fleeing," said Hana. "They think we are enemies." "Of course they do," said Park Sue. He had come to the bridge to help. "Look at us. We are huge. We are loud. We have weapons. To them, we must look like monsters." Admiral Kang Tae nodded. "Keep sending the message. Tell them we mean no harm. Tell them we came to help." The fleet did not chase the Valori. It stayed still, patient, waiting. Nari repeated the message again and again. Hours passed. The Valori ships slowed, stopped, turned around. A response came back, a single word. "Why?" Park Sue answered. "Because you asked." More silence. Then the Valori began to approach, slowly, carefully, like wounded animals afraid of a trap. The largest ship in their group came close to the Endurance. It was small and old. Its hull was damaged. It was barely holding together. "They want to dock," said Nari. "Their leader wants to meet us." Admiral Kang Tae looked at Park Soo. "You should go. You understand them better than anyone." Park Soo nodded. His hands were shaking. This was the moment he had waited for his entire life. First contact with another intelligent species. He was terrified. He was also ready. The docking bay was cold. Park Soo stood alone. He had asked the soldiers to stay back. He did not want to scare the Valori. Behind him, Nari watched from a safe distance. The door opened. The Valori who entered was very old. His skin was pale blue, almost white. He was thin and fragile. He moved like he might break at any moment. His large black eyes looked at Park Soo with a mixture of fear and wonder. This was Pale Light, the elder of the refugee fleet, the leader of the last Valori. Park Soo did something unexpected. He kneeled down. He made himself small. He bowed his head. "I am sorry we did not come sooner," he said. Pale Light stopped walking. He stared at the human on his knees. In all his long life, he had never seen a predator bull. He had never seen a creature of war show gentleness. "You are real," Pale Light whispered. His voice was like wind through leaves. "The Deathworlders are real." "We are human," said Park Soo. "We received your message. We came as fast as we could." Pale Light came closer. Each step seemed to take all his strength. He stopped in front of Park Soo. For a long moment, he just looked at him. Then, slowly, he reached out his thin hand. Park Soo did not move. He let the alien touch him. The moment their skin met, Pale Light gasped. His whole body trembled. Tears fell from his black eyes. He was feeling everything Park Soo felt. The grief for the Valori dead. The rage against the Krath. The determination to protect these strangers. And underneath it all, something Pale Light had never expected. Love. "You burn so brightly," Pale Light whispered. "Your emotions are like fire. How do you survive your own heat? How do you not destroy yourselves?" Park Soo smiled sadly. "Sometimes we do destroy ourselves. But we also learn. We grow. We try to be better." "You came so far. You knew you might die. Why?" "Because no one should suffer alone. Because helping others is what makes us human." Pale Light fell to his knees, not in fear, not in submission, in gratitude. He wept openly, his thin body shaking with sobs. Behind Park Soo, Nari was crying too. "Thank you," Pale Light said through his tears. "Thank you for answering. Thank you for being real." Park Soo helped him stand. He offered him water and food. The old Valori ate slowly, still watching the human with wonder. "There is something you must know," Pale Light said finally. His voice was heavy with fear. "The Krath are coming. They followed us. 500 ships. They will be here soon." Park Soo felt his heart go cold. 500 ships, more than double their fleet. He stood up. He touched his communicator. "Admiral, we have a problem." On the bridge, Kang Tae received the news. He looked at the star map. He looked at his officers. He saw fear in their eyes, but he also saw something else: determination. "The Valori need time to escape," he said. "We will give them that time." Captain Yoon Hana nodded. "There is a narrow passage nearby, the Korath Corridor. 2 neutron stars on either side. Only one way through. If we hold that passage, the Krath cannot go around us." "Then that is where we fight." The fleet began to move. 200 ships against 500. A battle that should be impossible to win. But the Deathworlders were not afraid of impossible. The Korath passage was beautiful and deadly. 2 neutron stars spun on either side, throwing out radiation that would kill anything unprotected. Between them was a narrow corridor of safe space. It was the only way through for 1,000 light years. Admiral Kang Tae had placed his fleet right in the middle. 200 ships formed a wall of steel and fire. Behind them, the Valori refugee fleet was already running. They would need 6 hours to reach safe space. 6 hours. The humans had to hold for 6 hours. "Enemy fleet arriving," said Nari. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. The darkness lit up with flashes. Ships came out of faster-than-light travel. 1, 10, 100. They kept coming. 500 Krath warships, each one bristling with weapons. They were massive. They were terrifying. They stopped when they saw the human fleet. A transmission came through. The Krath commander appeared on the main screen. He was huge, gray skin covered in scars, 6 arms, each holding a weapon. His eyes were small and cruel. "Unknown vessels," he growled. "You block the path of the Krath Dominion. Move aside or be destroyed. We hunt the Valori. They belong to us." Admiral Kang Tae stepped forward. He stood straight despite his age, despite his fear. He looked at the alien monster on the screen and spoke with a voice of iron. "I am Admiral Kang Tae of the United Earth Fleet. The Valori are under our protection. If you want them, you will have to go through us." The Krath commander laughed. It was an ugly sound. "We do not know your species, but we will learn your taste soon enough. You are outnumbered. You cannot win." "Perhaps," said Kang Tae, "but we can make you bleed, and the Valori will be long gone before you finish with us. Is that a trade you want to make?" The Krath stopped laughing. For the first time, confusion appeared on his face. "You would die for them? For prey? For weaklings? We would die for anyone who calls for help." The screen went dark. The Krath commander had ended the transmission. Captain Yoon Hana turned to her officers. "Battle stations, all ships prepare for combat." The Krath attacked. They came in waves, just as Hana had predicted. Fast ships first, testing the human defenses, but humans did not run. Humans did not scatter. They held their line and fired back. The first Krath ships exploded. More came. The battle grew fierce, space filled with light and fire. Ships burned on both sides. The Krath pushed forward with all their strength. They had never seen prey that fought back. They did not understand it. They did not know how to handle it. On the Endurance, alarms screamed. The ship shook as weapons hit its armor. "Hull damage on decks 7 through 12, reported an officer. "Seal those sections," ordered Hana. "Keep firing." Admiral Kang Tae stood at the center of the bridge. Around him, chaos reigned. But he was calm. He watched the battle like a chess game. Every move, every counter. "The Valori are 3 hours from safety," said Nari. "We need to hold longer. Then we hold longer." In the cargo bay, Lieutenant Baek Jun waited with his soldiers. They were ready for the next phase of the battle. Boarding action. The most dangerous kind of fighting. Their target was the Krath command carrier. If they could capture it, they could end the battle early. It was almost impossible, but almost was not the same as completely. "Drop ships launching in 2 minutes," came the announcement. Baek Jun looked at his team. 50 soldiers. The best of the best. Many of them would not come back. "I will not lie to you," he said. "This will be hard. Some of us will die. But every minute we buy is another minute for the Valori to escape. Every Krath we kill is one less monster hunting innocent people." He raised his weapon. "Make your lives count." The dropships launched into the fire. Krath defenses shot down 3 of them immediately. But the others got through. They crashed into the side of the command carrier and burned their way inside. Baek Jun was first through the hole. The fighting was brutal. Krath soldiers were huge and strong, but humans were fast and clever and absolutely refused to quit. Room by room, corridor by corridor, they pushed toward the bridge. Baek Jun killed more enemies than he could count. His armor was damaged. His body was bleeding. But he kept moving, always forward, never stopping. Finally, they reached the command deck. The Krath commander was waiting. He towered over the humans. His 6 arms held 6 weapons. He looked at Baek Jun with hatred. "You are insects," he roared. "You cannot defeat me." He charged. The fight was short. The Krath commander was strong, but he had never faced a human soldier before. He did not know about their speed, their training, their absolute refusal to surrender. Baek-jun put a blade through his throat. The commander fell. His crew dropped their weapons. The bridge was captured. A young Krath soldier cowered in the corner. He was shaking with fear. He looked at the humans like they were demons from a nightmare. "How?" he whispered. "How do you fight without fear?" Baek-jun looked at him. His face was covered in blood. His body was broken. He should have been dead 10 times over. "We are terrified," he said. "We just do not let it stop us." Outside, the Krath fleet saw their command carrier go dark. They saw their leader fall. Confusion spread through their ranks. Ships began to retreat. On the Endurance, Nari shouted with joy. "The Valori are clear. They made it to safe space." Admiral Kang Tae allowed himself a small smile. "Tell the fleet, we won." The surviving human ships held their position as the Krath fled. They did not chase. They did not need to. They had done what they came to do. On the refugee ships, Valori watched through their windows. They saw the burning human vessels. They saw the floating bodies. They saw the price humans had paid to save strangers. Pale light stood at his window, tears falling down his ancient face. "They really came," he whispered. "They really died for us." The Deathworlders had kept their promise. The silence after battle is a strange thing. Admiral Kang Tae stood on the observation deck of the Endurance. The ship was badly damaged. Half its systems were offline, but it was still flying. It had survived. Not everyone had been so lucky. 40 ships destroyed, 8,000 humans dead. Each one had a name. Each one had a family. Each one had given their life for people they had never met. Kang Tae knew he would remember their faces for the rest of his life. Captain Yoon Hana entered the deck. She was bandaged in several places. A cut on her forehead would leave a scar. But she was alive. "Admiral," she said, "the Valori Elder requests permission to speak with you." Kang Tae nodded. "Send him in." Pale light entered slowly. He looked even more fragile than before. The battle had drained him. Feeling all that death, all that pain, had nearly killed him. But he had survived. "Admiral Kang Tae," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. "I do not have words for what you have done. In our language, there is no word for this kind of sacrifice. We never imagined any species would die for strangers." Kang Tae turned to face him. "It is what we do. It is what we have always done. Sometimes we forget. Sometimes we fail. But at our best, humans protect those who cannot protect themselves. You have lost so many, because of us." "No." Kang Tae shook his head. "We lost them because the Krath are killers. We lost them fighting evil. There is no better way to die." Pale light was silent for a moment. Then he asked the question that had been burning in his mind. "What happens now? Our world is gone. Our people are homeless. We have nowhere to go." Kang Tae put his hand on the alien's thin shoulder. He was careful to be gentle. "You come with us. Earth has room. Human space has room. You will never be alone again." Pale light's black eyes filled with tears. For the first time in months, they were tears of joy. The journey back to human space took several weeks. Human and Valori ships flew together. Slowly, carefully, the two species began to understand each other. Park Soo spent every day with the Valori. He learned their language. He learned their customs. He learned their songs of mourning and their songs of hope. The Valori were amazed by him, by his warmth, by his endless patience, by his genuine desire to understand. "You are different from other humans," one young Valori told him. "You burn less hot." Park Soo laughed. "No, I just learned to control my fire." Lieutenant Baek-jun recovered from his wounds. His soldiers called him a hero. He did not like the word. He had lost 12 people on the command carrier, 12 friends who would never go home, but he also saved countless Valori lives. He had to believe that mattered. On the day they reached Earth, something unprecedented happened. The United Earth Council gathered. Leaders from every nation, billions of people watched on screens across the world, and in the center of the Great Hall stood Pale Light, the last elder of the Valori. He spoke with a translator, but his meaning was clear. "We called into the darkness," he said. "We sent our prayer to the stars. We did not know if anyone would hear. We did not know if anyone would care. We only knew that we were dying." The hall was completely silent. And then you came, the Deathworlders, the monsters of legend, the creatures we had been taught to fear. He paused. His voice broke with emotion. "You came not as conquerors, not as predators, but as protectors. You died for us. Strangers died for strangers." He looked at Admiral Kang Tae, who sat in the front row. "We have lived for 10,000 years. We have met many species, but we have never met anyone like you. You are terrifying. Your world is a nightmare of gravity and storms. Your bodies are weapons. Your history is written in blood." He smiled. It was a strange expression on his alien face, but beautiful. "And yet you love, fiercely, completely. You love so hard that you would cross the stars to save people you have never met. This is not strength. This is something greater. This is love with teeth. This is kindness that fights." He bowed his head. "Thank you for hearing our call. Thank you for being real. The Valori will never forget." When he finished speaking, the hall erupted in applause. Humans and Valori together. Two species bound by sacrifice and hope. But the story was not over. 3 days later, Nari sat at her station in the rebuilt lunar relay. The night shift was quiet again, peaceful. Then her console beeped. Another signal, another pattern, another message from the stars. She translated it quickly now. She had learned so much from working with the Valori. The message was from a species called the Morath. They were also running from the Krath. They had heard the stories. They had heard that the legendary Deathworlders had destroyed a Krath fleet. They were asking for help. Nari sent the message to Admiral Kang Tae immediately. An hour later, he arrived at her station. He was still healing. He should have been resting. But he came anyway. He read the message. He looked at the star map. He saw how far the Morath were, how dangerous the journey would be, how many lives it might cost. He did not hesitate. "Send the reply," he said. His voice was tired but strong. "Tell them the Deathworlders are coming." Nari smiled. Her fingers moved across the keyboard. Somewhere in the distant stars, a frightened species would receive a message, a promise, a hope. Help was on the way, because humans answer calls, because Deathworlders protect. Because no one should suffer alone in the darkness. Not anymore. Not ever again.